My brother raised his glass and said, "Here's to family, except for Owen, the failure who thinks owning a company makes him better than us." My parents laughed, so I raised my glass and said, "To the failure who just stopped covering your mortgage, your CAR, and every last vacation you never thanked me for." They say every family has a golden child. In mine, it was Max, and I was whatever the opposite of that is. My name's Owen. I'm 32 years old, a mechanical engineer living in Boulder, Colorado. I run a quiet but profitable supply firm that makes smart home parts. Nothing flashy, nothing viral, just steady, decent work. But in my family, I might as well have been invisible. Max, my younger brother, is the kind of guy who's always chasing some big dream, pro baseball, a food truck, a crypto startup. Every year it's something new. And every year he fails spectacularly. But somehow, he's always the center of attention. Always the one who gets forgiven. Adored, even. Meanwhile, I was the one who paid the medical bills when Dad slipped and broke his wrist, but forgot to renew his insurance. I co-signed Max's lease when he wanted to prove he was serious this time about moving to LA for acting. And I picked up the tab for the family trip to Hawaii 2 years ago, which I wasn't even invited to help plan. Nobody asked me to do any of those things. And nobody said thank you, either. Mom always had this line, "You're just more responsible, sweetie. Max needs more from us." And somehow, us always meant me. If Max messed up, someone bailed him out. If I did well, someone made a joke about me needing to get a life. At family dinners, when I talked about a new client or product we launched, Dad would nod absently, then pivot to Max's latest hustle. "He's got vision, that one," he'd say. "Just needs a little wind beneath his wings." As if I was the breeze meant to carry him. Last Christmas, Max gave me a used air fryer, still greasy inside, and bragged about how he scored it from a customer return bin. I just paid off the last of his credit card debt the month before. And when I brought it up, not angrily, just factually, Mom sighed and said, "You're not still keeping score, are you?" But I was. Quietly, without ever meaning to, I had a mental ledger full of receipts, late-night Venmo transfers, surprise deposits to patch over overdrafts, Dad's surprise trip to Vegas that only got booked because I covered their mortgage that month. I wasn't trying to buy love. I just didn't know how else to stay connected. There was this hollow spot in me, carved out over years of being the fallback guy, the one who showed up but never got seen. And I told myself it was fine, that being stable was enough. But deep down, I knew. I was the family's safety net, not because they loved me, but because they knew I'd never cut the rope. Mom's 60th birthday was supposed to be a small, elegant thing. That's what Dad told me when he called 3 weeks out. Just family, low-key. A little dinner up in Estes Park. "It's all taken care of, son. Just bring yourself." I didn't ask questions. I never do. The day before the party, I got a call from the lodge confirming Mr. Owen Clark's card had been successfully charged for the event deposit. My jaw tightened as the receptionist thanked me for the lovely arrangements and reminded me the balance would be charged at checkout. I didn't cancel. Of course I didn't. The restaurant was nice, stone fireplace, soft lighting, that rustic mountain chic thing that Mom adored. I arrived early, in a blazer I hadn't worn in 2 years. Max showed up late, as usual, flanked by a woman named Crystal, or maybe Crystal, blonde hair, strappy heels, laughed like a car alarm. He kissed Mom's cheek dramatically and held out her chair like he was Prince Charming. Then he sat down across from me, flicking his wrist just enough to make sure I saw it. The Omega Seamaster I gave him last year for his birthday. A symbol of a fresh start, he'd called it. Told me he pawned it for rent 2 months later. Guess he got it back. "Bro," he said, grinning. "Didn't expect to see you in real pants. What's the occasion?" I smiled. "Tight. Just honoring the financier's dress code." He blinked, laughed like it was a joke, moved on. The party started out fine. Mom glowed under the string lights. Dad ordered an expensive bottle of wine like he didn't know who was footing the bill. People toasted, mostly to Mom, some to family, a few to how far we've all come. Then Max stood. He held his glass like he was delivering a TED Talk. To Mom, the most graceful, forgiving woman alive. And to Dad, for always showing up. And to those of us, he paused, glancing my way, who think success is measured in bank statements, not bonds. Laughter scattered across the table. Crystal giggled into her napkin. Even Dad smirked. I didn't move, didn't blink. When it was my turn, I stood slowly, lifting my glass. "To Mom," I said, "you're 60 today, and you look better than any of us deserve. I hope this evening has been everything you wanted." She smiled, touched. I turned slightly, voice still calm. "This will be my last family expense. Going forward, I won't be covering dinners, deposits, debts, or dreams. Consider this party my final contribution." Silence. Just like that. Max's smile faltered. Crystal stopped chewing. Dad's eyes narrowed. Mom opened her mouth, then closed it again. I sat back down, took a slow sip of wine. Nobody clapped, nobody laughed, but for the first time, I felt like someone had finally heard me. After the party, I didn't go straight home. I walked. The air in Estes Park was thin and cold, the kind that made your breath look like smoke. I passed shuttered shops and empty sidewalks, hands in my pockets, trying to feel something other than nothing. I wasn't angry. That surprised me. I thought I'd be seething. Thought I'd replay Max's toast over and over, imagining a dozen better comebacks I could have made. But all I felt was this strange weightless clarity, like I just cut a tether I'd been dragging for years. The truth settled in quietly. I wasn't loved for who I was. I was tolerated for what I gave. And now that I'd stopped giving, the love would probably stop too. I got back to Boulder around midnight. My phone had been buzzing the whole ride down, face down in the passenger seat. I didn't check it until I was inside, jacket off, shoes kicked away, standing barefoot in the quiet of my kitchen. 3 voicemails. First one was Dad, voice tight with fury. You embarrassed your mother. What kind of son does that? At her birthday, no less. You think money gives you the right to be cruel. Second one was Mom, softer, choked. Owen, please. You don't have to do this. Max didn't mean it like that. You know how he is. Don't punish the whole family for a moment. Last one was Max. No greeting. You're seriously gonna be a drama queen about a joke? I'm the bad guy now, 'cause I said what we're all thinking? Grow up. I listened to each one twice. Not because I wanted to. Just because I couldn't believe how fast they'd flipped the narrative. How fast love turned to accusation. Pleading turned to blame. None of them said thank you. Not once. That was the part that stung. Not the anger. Not the shame. The absence of gratitude. The total erasure of what I'd given. I sat down at my kitchen table, opened my laptop, and pulled up a blank spreadsheet. 7 years of financial favors. I wanted to see them for what they really were. Line by line, I went back through old emails, text threads, payment receipts, rent payments, bailouts, plane tickets, Christmas gifts, utility bills, cosign loans I had quietly taken over when Max defaulted. The total made my stomach turn. $82,411. Untaxed, unguarded, unacknowledged. When I was done, I saved the file. Subject line, in case you forgot. No explanation, no greeting, no signature. I attached the spreadsheet and sent it to all 3 of them. Then I shut my laptop and turned off my phone. Not out of spite, out of necessity. Because for the first time in my adult life, I had nothing left to give. And I wasn't going to apologize for that anymore. She showed up on a Tuesday morning, unannounced, like always. I was still in sweatpants, halfway through coffee, when I heard the knock. Not frantic, not loud. Just that soft, deliberate rhythm she used when she wanted to seem gentle, like she was giving you the opportunity to open the door, not demanding it. When I answered, Mom was standing there with a pink pastry box in both hands, the kind from that old German bakery I used to beg for as a kid. She smiled like nothing had happened, like I hadn't dropped a bomb in the middle of her birthday dinner 3 nights ago. I thought you could use something sweet, she said, brushing past me into the living room before I could say no. She sat on the couch, smoothing her skirt. The pastry box rested on her lap like a peace offering wrapped in frosting. I stayed standing. Your house is nice, she said, looking around like she'd never really seen it before. I didn't know you had a fireplace. You've been here, I said quietly. She smiled. Only once or twice. I guess I didn't look closely. She wasn't here to look. She was here to fix it. Not what was broken, just the surface. Reset the dynamic. Get things back to normal. I wanted to talk, she said, face to face. I know things got a little heated. I said nothing. She opened the box. For pastries inside, perfect and untouched. Raspberry Danish, my favorite, placed right on top. I just think this whole thing's been blown out of proportion, she continued, selecting her words like they were stepping stones on a river she was trying not to fall into. Max didn't mean to hurt you. He's just always been that way. You know that? Yeah, I said. I do. She looked up, surprised by how calm I sounded. Probably thought I'd yell, that I'd crumble, that I'd plead. But you hurt me, too, I added. Her face twitched. Me. You laughed. She looked away. I paid for a party I wasn't told I was paying for. Got mocked by my brother. In front of everyone. And you laughed. I didn't mean. You never do. I cut in. That's the problem. She swallowed, folded her hands over the pastry box like it was holding her together. We just thought. You were fine. You always seemed fine. I made myself fine so you wouldn't have to worry, I said. But that turned into convenience. I wasn't your son. I was your cushion. Her voice broke a little. Max needed more. And I cost less, I said. She looked down, lips pressed thin. Then she reached for the box and stood up. I didn't come here to argue. No, I said, watching her carefully. You came to make sure the bank wasn't closed. That made her freeze. You're not used to hearing no from me, I said. But get used to it. She nodded once, said nothing, turned toward the door. At the last second, she glanced back. I hope you won't let this ruin things. It didn't ruin anything, I said. It revealed it. She hesitated like she wanted to say something else, then left. The box never made it to the table. It started like a ripple, quiet, small. I didn't even notice it at first. 3 days after Mom's visit, Max's girlfriend posted a cryptic story, white text on a black background. Some wallets pretend to be heroes, until they slam shut. No names, no tags, just the kind of thing designed to provoke questions and sympathy in equal measure. The comments were full of supportive emojis and vague affirmations. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. 2 days later, Max's name came up in a call from the DMV. Apparently, the title transfer I co-signed for on his car never went through completely. They had questions. I had answers. I pulled the trigger the next morning, canceled the insurance policy under my name, flagged the title as inactive, sent one email to Max with 2 words. You'll need to walk. I didn't hear back from him, but I saw the fallout. Someone, probably Max, tried to start the car the following afternoon and found it booted in his apartment lot. When the tow truck arrived, a neighbor filmed it. Max shouting, hands waving. That same girlfriend standing nearby, arms crossed. Later that evening, I got a text from her, one I never expected. "I'm sorry. For what it's worth, I didn't know how bad it really was." I didn't answer. She was out of the picture by the weekend anyway. Deleted her photos. Changed her status. Gone. That Sunday, I came home from a morning hike to find something strange. A thick envelope wedged under my front door. No postage. Just Owen written on the front in my father's handwriting. The old-fashioned cursive he used for birthday cards and Christmas checks. No knock. No call. Just the envelope. I carried it to the kitchen. Hands dry. Get tight. Inside were printed emails. Scanned bank statements. Handwritten notes. And at the very bottom, a folded letter. "Owen, I made mistakes, but you need to see this." "Dad." I sat down. "Read everything." Twice. It went back years. Lines of credit tied to the house. Hellic withdrawals that started small, a couple thousand here, a roof repair there, but ballooned into something far worse. Max's fingerprints were all over it. Email chain showed how it began. Just a temporary boost. "You'll get it back once the startup launches. If Owen doesn't want to help anymore, the house is still equity. It's just numbers." My father hadn't just known. He'd signed off on most of it. The last page was a fresh bank notice. Current equity, $12,183. Home status, at risk. They were losing the house. Or would have been, if I hadn't stopped funding the leaks. It wasn't just Max who had been bleeding them dry. It was all of them, quietly, collectively, entitled to me by default. They treated me like the safety net, and when I pulled it away, they all started falling. I stared at the pile of paper, wondering how many holidays I'd smiled through while they played financial roulette behind my back. Wondering how many dinners I'd paid for while they mortgaged their future like a casino chip. Wondering if Dad left this envelope as an apology or as a final ask. But I already knew. This wasn't surrender. It was a transfer of burden. And this time, I wasn't picking it up. I spent the next day going line by line through the envelope. I wanted to believe there was some misunderstanding, that maybe Dad had just been confused or coerced. But no, the emails were clear. The dates were worse. Max had been draining equity from their house for almost 5 years, and Dad had co-signed most of it. Even tried to convince Mom to take out another line of credit, just in case. And buried in the middle of the printouts, there it was. An email from Max to Dad, dated just 2 weeks before Mom's birthday. "If Owen won't pitch in anymore, we'll have to sell the house. There's no other option. He's made his choice." Like I was the one who put the roof over them in jeopardy. Like my silence was the crime, not his spending. That night, I sat on my couch, watching the fire sputter in the gas stove, thinking about that word, option. As if the family home was just an asset to be liquidated. As if Mom's garden and Dad's stupid recliner and the Christmases and graduations that had lived in those walls were just chess pieces to be traded for whatever Max needed next. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just picked up the phone and called my lawyer. Carla had been on retainer for years. She helped with contracts, patents, IP stuff for my company. But when I explained what I needed, she didn't blink. "You're sure?" she asked. "Yeah. You're really going to buy your parents' house from under them?" "No," I said. "I'm going to buy it for them and lock it down so Max never touches it again." Within a week, Carla had drafted the paperwork. We'd set up a protective family trust, not in my parents' names, but in the name of the trust itself. I would purchase the property outright, settle the open lines of credit, and remove Max's ability to leverage the house ever again. In exchange, Mom and Dad could live there until the end of their lives. No rent, no fees, just peace. They wouldn't be able to take out loans against it, wouldn't be able to sign anything away. No one could use it as leverage again. It was clean, it was legal, and it was final. I thought I'd feel bitter doing it, like I was once again swooping in to fix a mess they created. But I didn't, because this time, I wasn't doing it for love, or even duty. I was doing it to control the damage, to end the cycle that had sucked me dry for years. This wasn't generosity, it was containment. I signed the papers in Carla's office on a Wednesday afternoon, hand steady, no hesitation. When it was done, she slid a thick folder across the table. "Congratulations," she said. "Your parents' house is now safer than Fort Knox." I nodded. "Good." She hesitated before speaking again. "They don't know, do they?" "Not yet," I said, "but they will." I tucked the folder under my arm and stood up. Outside, it had started to snow, light and quiet, the kind that dusted the sidewalks instead of blanketing them. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was walking into a storm. He showed up the next night. No warning, no text, no call. Just a knock at my front door, sharp, uneven, like someone trying to act composed but already unraveling. I opened it to find Max standing there in a hoodie and jeans, no flashy girlfriend, no smug grin. He looked smaller somehow, paler, like the light had finally caught up to him and found nothing to reflect. "I need to talk," he said. I didn't say anything, just stepped aside. He walked in slowly, eyeing the house like it offended him, the neatness of it, the calm. He sat on the edge of the couch like he wasn't sure he was allowed to make himself comfortable. So he started, running a hand through his hair. This whole thing got out of hand. I sat across from him, let the silence stretch. He swallowed. "The toast at Mom's birthday, it was just a joke, man. A dumb one. I didn't mean to upset you." "You didn't upset me," I said calmly. "You clarified things." He flinched like I'd slapped him. He shifted forward. "Look, I know we've had our crap, okay? But this, cutting off the money, the car, the insurance, come on. You don't think that's extreme?" "No," I said. "I think letting you keep bleeding us dry would have been extreme." His head jerked up. "What does that mean?" I reached beside the chair and dropped the manila folder on the coffee table. He stared at it. That's a trust, I said. I own the house now. It's legally protected. You can't touch it, borrow against it, or suggest selling it ever again. He didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at the folder like it might explode. You bought it, legally and fully, I said. It's off the market, out of reach. He sat back, stunned. You went behind my back. No, I said. I went through the front door. You're the one who used the back way. His voice cracked. You think you're some kind of hero? No, I said, standing. I think I'm the janitor, cleaning up your mess. His hands clenched on his knees. So what now? I'm cut off for good? That it? You were never cut off, I said. You threw yourself out. All I did was close the door. He stood, jaw tight. You think this makes you better than me? No, I said simply. But it makes me free. He looked around, as if trying to find a foothold, something to grab onto that could flip the narrative, but there was nothing here for him. No soft landing, no backup wallet. Mom and Dad are pissed, he muttered. They're safe, I said. They can stay in that house for the rest of their lives, without worrying about you gambling it away on your next idea. You really think they'll be okay with this? They already signed, I said. They were quiet, but they signed. Max stared at me like he didn't recognize the person in front of him anymore. And maybe he didn't, because for the first time in years, I wasn't the quiet brother holding things together behind the curtain. I was done holding. He turned toward the door, then hesitated. You really done? I nodded. For your sake, I hope so too. He walked out without another word. This time, I didn't watch him go. The house transfer was finalized a week later. Carla called to confirm everything was official. Deeds recorded, liens cleared, the trust locked tight. My parents signed the paperwork in her office without asking many questions. Dad didn't speak at all. Mom kept her eyes on the dotted lines. When it was over, she whispered, "Thank you," but couldn't look at me. There were no hugs, no attempts at reconciliation, just quiet, reluctant relief and a silence I didn't fill. I didn't expect them to change. I didn't do it for that. A few months passed. The calls stopped. The texts dried up. Max went quiet. I heard, through mutual friends, that he was pivoting again. Something about coaching for personal growth, maybe fitness, maybe crypto, maybe both. I didn't care enough to look. His online presence had shrunk, his new ventures less shiny, his girlfriends less curated. Our contact became a flicker. The occasional forwarded email with a passive-aggressive tone from Mom about family holidays or updates, all of which I left unread. Dad never reached out. One December morning, I got a handwritten card in the mail, postmarked from Boulder, my mother's cursive on the envelope. Inside, a simple holiday card, snow-covered pine trees. Inside it read, "Owen, we didn't deserve your grace. Thank you anyway, Mom." There was no mention of Max, no request to reconnect, no apologies beyond that one line. I read it once and slid it into the drawer where I kept the manila folder, the same folder I dropped on Carla's desk, the same one I'd used to build the case for protecting the house. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I didn't respond. That was the new rule. I didn't know anything anymore. Not explanations, not forgiveness, not money, not presents. For the first time in my adult life, I was living without obligation, no strings, no debts masquerading as love. Some days I felt the loss, but it wasn't grief. It was more like the ghost of a weight I used to carry. I'd catch myself expecting a call, a guilt trip, a crisis, but none came. And when they didn't, the space they left behind felt peaceful. I got up earlier, drank coffee slowly, stopped checking my phone reflexively, took a weekend trip to Oregon just because I wanted to see the ocean in winter. No one asked me why. No one complained about the cost. I didn't tell anyone where I was going, and no one followed. They still had each other, still had their dynamic, their story, but now it spun without me. Let them keep it. I'd found something better. Not revenge, not justice, just distance, just peace, and the freedom to never explain myself again.